Hi, who are you?
My name is Michael Horse.
And so what are you doing here?
I am showing the type of work that I do called ledger art. I used to work for the Southwest Museum in Los Angeles and for the Hay Foundation Museum of the American Indian when it was in New York before they moved to Washington, D.C. And I'm a jeweler and a sculptor, but I would sneak in and I would go through all the archives of the museum and I would, just curious, and I found this kind of art on paper called ledger art. And I was fascinated by it, so I started to do research on it. We used to paint on hides. It was our history book, our calendar, a special event, a meteor shower, a battle, a holy person being born. And then about 1835, about that time, we started to get a hold of pieces of scrap paper that were left by an expedition or by settlers or out of a book that kept records of things that were brought to the reservation. And we would paint our history. We would paint things that were going on with us at that time, or we would paint the incidences of our history. We're an oral society, but we would paint these pictures to remind the oral storytellers of things that had happened. So I became kind of an expert on this. I've been doing this for 30 years. And I'm still fascinated by the fact that people that know a lot about pottery or about jewelry, about rugs, know nothing about this art form because most of it's been tucked away in these archives and museums for years. But these books have come out in the last 10 years, so it's become very popular. So I lecture all over the country on this art form.
And what kind of medium? What medium do you use?
I use pen and ink and watercolor, which was the medium that was mostly sought after by people when it was around. But most ledger art, like this one up here, was done in colored pencil and crayon, because that was the most accessible medium that was used. And there are all kinds of styles depending on which artist and which tribe did. I paint in the Kiowa Comanche style, which is a little more realistic than what the Sioux and the Cheyenne did. The Sioux and the Cheyenne are almost like stick figures.
So I see there's an American landscape or American map behind these guys.
And usually the painting didn't go with the paper. We couldn't read it. It was just scrap paper.
Yeah, and it was just with lines and stuff.
Over the years, I found myself putting the painting with the text, which kind of made a deep layer of things going on, you know? And I would see these little figures above the heads every now and then, and I wasn't quite sure what this was. And my elder said, these are names of people. This is how people were identified, you know? Like this is Sings to the Stars, and this is a Medicine Lodge or Medicine Teepee. And that's why they know that certain people were at a certain battle in a certain time.
Oh, neat.
And this particular show that I did was about courtship and love, which there was a lot of this because, you know, basically you were in a confined area. So this was kind of almost like our soap opera also. We did a lot of, this person was in love with this person, or this person got married, or this person
storytelling.
was sleeping with... Yeah, which makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
Family secrets, whoops.
Yeah. Which, when I started to do research on the courting pictures, I was kind of fascinated by how many there really was, you know. And what's interesting about this art form, the last few years I thought to myself, wherever they did this to human beings, wherever you culturally and physically repressed a culture, this art must exist. So I'm trying to put an internment show together because it's in Manzanar where they interned the Japanese. I've seen it on meat wrapping paper, on letterhead.
Anything where they're telling their story, trying to convey their experience.
In that kind of
with whatever they have.
Kind of repressed environment. It's in Angel Island. The Museum of Tolerance has tons of this stuff I have to go see from the concentration camps.
Oh my God.
The Museum of Slavery in Alabama has a lot, and they tell me it's coming out of Darfur.
Wow.
So, you know, it's some of it's almost like the blues. Some of it tells of the repression that's going on. That's what's so powerful about ledger art. Even people that aren't collectors of Native American art know that something's going on in these paintings.
Yes.
You know, because they tell a very deep and poignant story.
That's really fascinating.
Yeah. So that's how I became a a fan of this art form, and then I'm actually now kind of an expert on it. I travel all over the world and lecture on this particular art form.
Nice. And then this one over here, is this yours also?
Yeah, this is a Blackfoot Sundance. I don't do I won't paint the piercing because that's a holy ceremony, so I won't do that. People will ask me to do that. I won't. They're just getting ready for the ceremony.
Yeah. Okay, very nice. And then your jewelry. What do you? What materials do you use? Silver?
I've been making jewelry for 30 years. My family were jewelers. My mom is part Zuni, so I learned from my uncles and my aunties. Some of my tools are family tools. They've been in my family for 100 years. Even if somebody wants to duplicate my work, they have to duplicate my tools. I used to identify pieces for some of the museums before we started to sign things we started to sign our work in the late 50s. But I could tell some of the stuff that was done in the 20s, 30s, and 40s by the tool marks. I knew, what particular artist had done it. And I cut all my own stones, and I go back and forth from doing really traditional pieces to really modern versions of.
And if people want to reach you to purchase some of your work or to find out more or book you, where do they find you?
Gathering Tribes Gallery.
Yeah, and so what the website is?
you're looking at somebody. I just learned there's a redial button.
www.gatheringtribes.com.
Yes.
Yeah, awesome. This is Michael Horse. Fabulous.
Thank you.
Thank you.